furniture.
Yeah, you'll be sorry if I'm dead tomorrow.
Your will.
Me.
Oh, just you? You leave everything to
I leave
yourself.
everything to myself.
Let me find this cat. Where's this cat? Oh, there he is.
Donnie.
There's that cat.
The cat.
The acro cat. Whoops.
The old acrobat.
They smash him against the lens of the camera.
What?
Impact
Joe?
cat.
Ray.
Whoops.
Get off the couch.
Yeah, what are you
Get off
doing
the
on the
couch.
couch? All week, because I'll be looking at places.
This is for insurance purposes?
Oh, open up your little Dapper Dapper Do thing and we'll zap your TV.
Absolutely amazing.
Turn it on, you'll see a nice picture.
Why?
Because then you'll know what it looked at, how the picture looked before it broke.
I don't remember what it looked like. It's a shame I don't have my verticals up yet.
Yeah, it would still go rust.
No, I put some colorful prints up on the wall. That'll brighten it up.
Yeah, as long as you get some color out of it.
You like my little bitty blinds?
No. Nah. Carl who?
Carl.
Oh, Carl.
Yeah, Carl wants to go. So we're thinking about maybe doing a spring trip.
Ooh.
Apartment campground.
What's that, a book?
Yes, spring. March 22nd to June 1st follows a gradual but irregular warming trend as the frequency of moisture-laden Pacific storms decreases. The clear spells may be ridiculously windy. Average high temperatures range from 82 in April to 101 in June. Daily lows from 56 to 70.
Raindrops are falling on my head, and just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. So I just did me some talking to the sun, and I said I didn't like the way he got things done, sleeping on the job. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. But there's one thing I know, the blues they send to meet me won't defeat me. It won't be long till happiness themselves will greet me. Raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Crying's not for me, 'cause I'm never gonna stop the rain by complaining, because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me. ahead. But that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Crying's not for me, 'cause I'm never gonna stop the rain by complaining, because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me.
Wasting so much money on crew travel. But if we could just get the schedule to stabilize, to become predictable, it will have enormous impact on the cost side of air operations. Now, we're going to use pricing as one of those tools with which we can manage the yields in our system. We're analyzing right now possible price increases to compensate for the increase in fuel costs and to possibly match some of the increases in prices from our competition. Other things that we're going to be, like I mentioned, was tightening up the discipline in our system, trying to get more densely packed containers, try to get the load factors up on our aircraft, try to stabilize our schedule where we can get on-time departures, on-time arrivals, get the predictability back into the system where our bid packs get out on time and they reflect the actual flying that you'll be doing during that month, so that we don't have to have as many reactive actions in our system control, and we can do more planning. If we can stabilize our system, it's going to make our lives a lot easier, and I know it'll make your life a lot easier as well. The operational discipline, the communication, the command and control of our aviation assets has got to improve, and you're going to see a lot of emphasis now on making sure that the Maintenance Operation Control Center, Flight Control, and System Control all work together with more communication, more coordination, so that we can get the information to them with which to make good decisions and cut down on some of the unsound practices that we find that we're doing out there in the workforce. We had literally hundreds of revisions to the flight crew schedule, hundreds of revisions. In fact, your bid, or the lines that you bid, in some cases, you couldn't even recognize the month that you flew from the month that you bid. And that's just wrong. We just had far too many changes to the schedule in too short a time frame. Now, changes to the schedule must be approved by Jim Barksdale, a Chief Operating Officer, or we don't do them. I mean, we've got to get back to a more stable, more predictable schedule. Next year, the preliminary guesses at what the flight schedule might look like showed a whole lot of flying in the 727 and in the DC-10, because what was going to happen was, in order to increase international flying in the DC-10, we were forcing out the DC-10 from the domestic system by replacing it with more 727s. Well, this has a reverse multiplier effect of when we added the wide bodies, in that now we've got to replace one airplane with three pilots with 9, more GSE, more mechanics, higher flight hours in the 727, taking the DC-10 and putting it internationally, which now requires that it be crewed on, say, an 8 or 9 to 1 ratio rather than a 3 to 4 to 1 ratio. Well, I'm here to tell you that that first estimate that came out really was unattainable. It did not reflect the business plan profitability objectives for the fiscal 91 business plan, and simply we were not going to be able to crew that kind of a flight schedule. So it's back to the drawing board to take a look at what final flight plan might be put out, or flight schedule might be put out. When we know the details of that, then we'll be able to build a manning model and be able to train toward that manning model. But I think you'll be able to see that we're going to keep the schoolhouse pretty full the rest of this spring. We're going to keep training at a maximum rate, even though that gives us some temporary problem with crewing this spring. We're going to keep the schoolhouse full and try to keep our training up to a very high level so we can keep the pipeline going, anticipating a pretty aggressive flight schedule next year. In our fleet planning, we're averaging bringing on a 727 hull onto the op spec about once every 2 weeks. In fact, since the 1st of December to now, we brought 9 airplanes onto the OpSpec. We've got 3 airplanes that we got from Air Portugal, and those 3 airplanes have come onto the system, and one will be used for the hush kit for the Dash 15 engine this spring, and 2 have already entered the P2F mod at D. Howard and down at Grumman. Now, there's been a lot of talk as to whether we've bought the Braniff 727-200 fleet. There are 20 airplanes at Braniff. We've got a good beat on those airplanes. We think we're going to be able to get those purchased, but we've not yet done that deal. But that would be 20 airplanes, and that would help out a lot because those 20 airplanes would come on in such a way to fill some of the passenger to freighter slots, the P2F slots that we had for the Air Canada airplanes. Now, the Air Canada airplanes have been delayed because they were tied to the delivery of the A320s, and their A320s have been delayed because of the strike at British Aerospace. So if we can get the Braniff airplanes, that'll keep that pipeline full on the narrow bodies, but we've not yet closed that deal. We're going to be returning several of the former Tiger 727 fleet as they come off of leases. I don't think there's any question that we've had to put more money into that fleet than we really had anticipated at that time. The same thing goes with the 747-100s. I think we all know that in the 1990s, that fleet of airplanes, the 747-100s, whether it's Federal Expresses or passenger airplanes or other cargo carriers, are going to have a problem with the aging aircraft issues. That airplane, even without the aging aircraft issues, is inherently about 1.5 to 2 percentage points in dispatch reliability below the 747-200 airplane. So it would probably be prudent for us to take a look at other alternatives to possibly retire those airplanes as they come off of their operating leases as well. We also have 2 aircraft that we got from Turkish Airways, 2 DC-1010s, and we're making plans right now to do a P2F conversion, a passenger to freighter conversion on those aircraft, which involve, as you know, some cockpit standardization, cutting the cargo door, beefing up the cargo floor, and some other mods to that airplane to make them freighters. We have another DC-10, a United DC-1010 that'll be entering the OpSpec in September of this year, and I think most of you had already known about that. Now let me cover the MD-11. The MD-11 is going to be one of the airplanes on which we'll rely throughout the 1990s. We've got 8 firm orders for MD-11 deliveries. In fact, that first MD-11 that you saw in the news that left Long Beach to go down to Yuma for its flight test program was a Federal Express airplane. That's going to be one of our airplanes to be delivered next year. So we've got 8 firm orders and we've got 11 options for additional MD-11s. The MD-11s that will come on, the 8 coming on, will be delivered over the 91 and 92 time frame, and the options, of course, then are the 93, 94, and 95 deliveries. That gives you a little bit of a rundown on some of the airplanes that we've got coming and some of the airplanes that we plan to retire. We do intend to replace the passenger 747 that we've got to turn back this spring. And I'm told from our people at Federal Express Aircraft Services that they do have a lock on a replacement airplane, and we intend to replace that airplane for our MAC charters. Let me simply say that domiciles as a tool to manage the crew force and to try to provide a working environment for our crews is always a tool that we look at. And we're going to be working with the Flight Advisory Board and with flight management to try to understand the benefit of possibly having some sort of temporary domicile or satellite domicile or some arrangement where those crews, for instance, that would find it beneficial to them to fly out of Anchorage may be able to do so, and what it would save the company and how that would fit into the overall operation. And there may be some other regional domicile concepts that we can take a look at too. You see, we don't mind taking a look at anything that is reasonable and responsive to the business plan. In fact, if anything, you can think of the Flight Crew Member Handbook as being both responsible and reasonable. Responsible responsive to the crew force's desires and responsive to our business plan, and reasonable and within the bounds of reason. We're going to try to create an environment in which the crews can work and enjoy their time off and enjoy their duty time, and an environment that is responsive to our business plan.
As many of you know, Bill Finnegan has elected to return to the line two areas of responsibility within the flight administration that Bill had are now reporting to myself in flight operations. That is the flight administration piece itself, Dexter Tudor and Rich Mistretta. We're also adding 2 more managers of flight administration to assist us in working with the FCH. The other area is crew resource scheduling. Sam Cavalucci